Hello, lovelies. Welcome to Horror 421, the podcast, with your hosts, special effects makeup artist supreme, Elena Morales, and your friendly small-town horror author, Charles Campbell. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the frights in this week's episode.
All right.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Horror 421, the podcast. It feels like forever since we've been here, but in reality, you guys don't know it, but Elena and I took a few weeks off. But we're back at it, and with me today, I have my beautiful co-host, Elena Morales.
Hello, everyone. Just slipping through the hands of time, time traveling to the future.
And with us today, we have a pretty good friend of mine. Her name is April Lee. She's an accomplished author. She's a dancer, and she's an amazing artist. So, April, we're so happy to have you on the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited. This is my first podcast.
Awesome.
As me.
Well, that's awesome. So we'll kind of go right into it. But before we start really digging into the questions, kind of give us a little background on you, kind of how you got into writing and dancing, and then we'll kind of go from there with the questions.
I've always been a writer. My family even kept like my really early manuscripts, like the ones that you write, at school when with a crayon. They had kept those, and they're like, "Your spelling is atrocious, but good luck with the story thing." So I've always been a writer. I've always had ideas for stories, and eventually I was like, "Hey, I could maybe turn this into a little more than a hobby, not a profession, but definitely a hobby." So I started just writing stories and publishing them on fan fiction.
Fan fiction is a universe. It is a way of life. We love fan fiction.
Isn't it though? And people were like, "Hey, we really like the way your stories flow. Are you going to write your own stuff?" And I'm like, "Oh, I've never considered." Yeah, sure, I'll write my own stuff. And so I joined a few guilds locally and got started writing, and found that more than just the strangers on the internet like my stuff too. So I just kept going. And so it just kept going from there. And now I teach writing, among other things, to kids, and hoping somebody will be the next me. And then the dancing thing, I've always kind of just been interested in it. And I started at home just for fitness. Somebody's like, "This is a good overall fitness." And I'm like, "Cool, I don't like doing crunches, so give me something that looks cool." So I started doing that. And from there, somebody finally opened up lessons, because the thing with the belly dance is nobody teaches it where I live, in the middle of Podunk, Georgia. So I was like, "Oh, I gotta wait for lessons, and I'll just keep working with DVDs." And finally somebody in Golden Isles opened up lessons, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm so excited." So I went, and then COVID happened, and I'm like, "Oh, I can't go to in-person classes anymore. So I'm gonna have to find something on the internet." So then I found the Stygian Collective, and they do the darker fusion and the different like darker archetypes and things. And I'm like, "Oh, that speaks to what I like." And they're like, "Okay, come join us." And since then I've been working with both companies, and I really have found I'm kind of weirdly good at it. So I found like my niche, like weird writing and weird dancing are my things. And then I teach school on top of all that. So
well, on
I
top
stay
of all
busy.
of that, yeah. Well, I was going to say, even on top of all that, you're an amazing artist. So I've seen.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I've seen.
I
some
forget
of your
that
work.
Sometimes.
Well, those are some of the things that I saw at the con. And Elena, she's amazing. She's an amazing artist. She does all kinds of stuff. So why don't you talk a little bit about how you got into art? I mean, you're multi-talented. So
I don't know. If I was in Hollywood, I could almost be the triple threat.
Almost, yeah.
Almost, except it's in weird things. Art, I've always done art if I wasn't writing. Art was something I could do without having to spell anything, because I'm just a teeny tiny bit dyslexic. you don't even notice sometimes, except when I mix up every word I go to spell. That gets really old to editors. They're just like, no, no, dear, you misspelled it all the way through. God, okay. So art was something that I was like, I could do it really before I could draw because it didn't require spelling. So I didn't get all weird and anxious. So my family, like my mom does art, and it was just the next natural thing. So I just took it up and started with watercolors because I'm like, that's just throwing color and water on a page and hoping for the best. But it has a little more to it. So I started that, and then last year I broke my foot in a really horrible accident and I couldn't dance. So my art, I decided I could try to do digital, and found that I have like a tattoo art style. So all my stuff ends up looking like tattoos, whether I want it to or not. So I'm like, well, that's a niche thing. People will just buy tattoo artwork like me because I don't have enough space for tattoos. So I'll buy
I've run out of room.
I still have room. I have plans, and usually my plans don't match up with my money. So I'm like, okay, so I'll just keep drawing it. And so I got better at drawing digital because I couldn't pull all my paints and stuff out because I was confined to a chair and couldn't do anything. So I'm like, I have an iPad and a pen and a lot of free time. So
Awesome.
digital it is. And people really, the last couple of cons I did, people really like that style, and I had like repeat customers and they're like, hey, yeah, I remember you, what else you got? And I'm like, cool. Awesome, keep buying stuff. But then they like the watercolor too, because I don't just do like traditional watercolor, I'll do like anime characters and stuff in watercolor, and people are just like, I've never seen that before and I didn't know that was.
We are back with April Lee. And she was filling us in on her digital art. So if you want to continue down that path, we'll ask you a couple questions when you get done.
So the digital art, when I broke my foot, I couldn't leave my chair. So I just gathered my materials to me, and I'm like, I have a tablet and I have a pen. Let's go for it. So then people really like that style too, because it looks like tattoos, and it's weird because I don't do it the way people are apparently supposed to do it. So I just do my own thing, and that's how I live my life.
Well, that's awesome.
Doing my own thing.
Well, Elena has a lot in common with you because and she'll say this too, but I'm going to say it for her. She's definitely an accomplished body artist. So her makeup work is truly art.
Oh yeah, I didn't realize we were friends on Instagram for a while before I realized
it was so funny. I was like, I know you, and I don't know why I know you, but I've seen your name. And I was like, we've been following each other on Instagram for like 2 whole years because I looked at all your belly dancing videos and your art too as well, because I like art. Anybody who does art, I'm like, instantly follow. It's just what I do. And I've seen your watercolor paints on there, and you have some amazing stuff. And I need to probably start posting my actual art outside of my body painting too, because I always get scared of it. I'm like, I don't know if people I like this as much.
Oh, like go for it.
I think my favorite medium is gouache. Gouache and watercolor are probably my all-time favorites because you're so versatile with the thickness and the changes. Anything that's dirty is fine. Just let's do it.
Oh yeah, that's always fun.
Mm-hmm.
So
do you prefer to work on canvas? Do you like Bristol paper? What's your favorite medium to work on when you're arting away?
I usually just get like just the watercolor paper, and because what I do is I actually make cards and send. I started really making cards for my church, and we would send them to members that weren't coming, or people that had surgeries or were sick, or just maybe needed some kind of pick me up. And the easiest way to do it was to get them on paper because the printer I have could read the paper better, and I could play around with it a little easier. So I just use whatever kind of paper I can find, usually in watercolor paper, whatever will stick.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to dive back into the books a little bit. I know Elena has some questions, and I definitely do too, because she kind of reminded me about the Crescent from. I read this a while back. I got this from you in Savannah, and I probably read it a year ago, and then it kind of left my brain a little bit until Elena just finished it.
Okay.
But she has fresh questions, and it brought up new questions in my mind, which she's probably going to ask you anyway. But these are April's books. Well, the books that I have. We have The Fortune Teller, which is an awesome short story. It's a really short read, but it's a great story. We have The Ivy Carnival Part 1. I don't know where Part 2 is yet.
Still in my brain.
Oh, wow. You dug right into the questions. My God.
And we have The Crescent. And so I'm going to be quiet, let Elena talk to you a little bit about The Crescent.
All right.
Hey, I love whodunit novels. They're my favorite. I love thrillers. I love anything related to that. Is she clairvoyant? Does she see ghosts? I have a lot of questions. Also, like right when I was at the end, I was like, hey, no, I want to know more.
No spoilers.
That's why I didn't say anything else. I'm just saying.
So she actually.
Before you get started, give a little overview on The Crescent and what it's about, so people who are listening know what we're talking about, just kind of what the book's about, and then go.
So The Crescent is about an Irish worker who, during the Depression, gets a job at the Crescent Hotel, which is a real place. I've stayed overnight and got terrified for my life in real life. And she starts working there and realizes that things are not what they seem. There's a man who's saying that he can cure cancer, and she's kind of going, yeah, sure, you and everybody. And the further she digs, the more she realizes that nothing at the Crescent is what it seems. And she's going to try to figure out exactly what's going on. Are people getting ripped off, or is this guy for real? And what's up with these ghosts going on there?
I adore this is one of my favorite time periods because everybody smokes cigarettes everywhere they go. And I liked that aspect of the story because you included it, and a lot of people forget cigarettes were legal in hospitals.
Yes.
I really enjoyed that, like the thematic elements of it. They were just so cool, and it gives off like that American Horror Story when they did the hotel vibes kind of too, with like of the spirits that live there, because you're not really sure if she's living with real people or if she's living with the dead, because it kind of has that play on words there with it. I just really really enjoyed those characters that you created for that.
Those are some of my favorite characters. The ghosts, I will say, because they are ghosts. She isn't losing her mind, though she questions it quite a bit. The ghosts are actually real ghosts to the Crescent. The ghost of Michael, who I believe he's in the book, he is actually a real ghost, and we have had a real face-to-face encounter with him. My sister and my mom went with my aunt to the Crescent a few years before I started writing the book, and they were talking about this, and I'll have to find the photo and send it to y'all and see what y'all think, because it's really cool. They were talking about a door, and they're going, hey, you should get a picture of that door with all these cool, weird advertisements on it for April and her husband, Michael. My husband's name is Michael. And they snapped the photo, and all of a sudden the door handle like starts jiggling, and it's a glass door, and you can see straight through it. And they realize, hey, the door handle's moving. We don't see anybody on the other side of it moving. There are no people in this room. But it happened right as soon as they said Michael. And she's like, did you do that? And my aunt's going, no, I didn't do that. And so they just took off and left my sister there holding the camera going, that was a ghost. That was a real ghost. What are you guys doing? And they're like tearing off down the hallway to like nearly
she's looking over her shoulder.
Ladies.
Mom,
like,
Mom?
I don't know.
They're gone. And so they were like, this is a really great. So we started digging into the history, and they're like, this is a really super history. You need to come see it. So I went out, I was writing the book at the time. I'd started it, I think, for NaNoWriMo. And I said, I really need to just go get a feel for the place, the atmosphere. And so we went and we stayed a night. And that was the most terrifying experience of my life. And I've been in like car wrecks and fallen off like great heights and stuff. And I was like, I think this was more terrifying than any of those things. Because you realize once you get in there that you feel like you're just being watched 24/7. And I went in and I was going to get a shower. And when I went to turn the taps, I could hear giggling. And I thought it was my husband. And he thought it was me in the next room. And I'm like, no, it's neither one of us. These are definitely ghosts. So I was like, stop, I just want to take a shower. And they'd like, it was ridiculous. My Fitbit got up and moved around without me in the middle of the night for 15 minutes. I had like 15 minutes of unknown activity. Woke up and I was like, what in the world? I'm looking at my phone, tracking my sleep, and I'm like, there's 15 minutes of steps unaccounted for at 5 a.m. I was not up at 5 a.m. Something got my watch and was walking around for me. We went on a ghost tour and just really like, I needed that atmosphere to really get the feel for the story. So if the story is creepy and you feel like somebody's watching you, that's because I felt like somebody was watching me while I was writing it. The character of Theodora, we stayed in her room for a few hours, interacted with her. We went in and none of the lights in the room worked, and all of our batteries and our cameras went super dead, like, oh, wow, right away. And we're like, hey, this stuff happens on Ghost Hunters, not in real life. So we just started talking, and you could see something kind of moving across the bed, and we were super respectful. We're like, hey, I'm just writing a book. I wanted to come see your room for myself. You're like my favorite ghost from the hotel, which is really weird when I think about saying it, but it was just like, it was so surreal that I was just like, wow, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to see this. So it was just like, we took pictures. I'll have to shoot some of those pictures over because they are just like amazing. I was blown away, but I needed that scary atmosphere for the book, because I'm like, is she losing her mind? Am I losing my mind? I feel like it. And the rest of the week at my aunt's house, I didn't sleep. They were like, you need to go to bed. And I'm like, something's watching me. She's like, you're at my house now. And I'm like, I don't care.
It follows you.
Just like something's still watching me. Not cool with that. I think it followed me all the way to Georgia, maybe, because some weird stuff still happens in my house. And my husband's like, yeah, didn't I tell you the house is haunted? And I'm like, no, you did not. Did you bring your own ghost or did I bring mine? And he's just like, no, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, we're not going to dive too deep into that.
Well, that's the kind of stuff we love to hear on Horror 421, the podcast. So the creepier, the better. So that is
real
awesome.
Ghosts.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't hear any of you.
I can hear April fine.
No, I can't hear anything. And nothing happened. I just can't hear you. Like the sound went out.
I can hear April.
Everybody froze and the sound went out. And then you guys came back and now I can't hear you.
It's a ghost.
I may
this is what happens when you start talking about ghosts, man. They come haunt my computer. You bring ghosts to my house.
See, that's why
I can't hear you. I don't know why I'm talking to everybody. They can't hear me.
Oh wow!
Hold, please.
I'm going to pause the recording.
Okay. So with the Ivy Carnival, I really, really enjoy this character. And you have a past lover, may or may not be a past lover. When is this one
coming? I've got to get the rest of the stories out of my brain. I have a friend in Kingsland that they're his favorite too. He's like, out of everything you've written, those collections of stories, that's like, he said, I don't know, they're just so creepy. When are you going to write more? And I'm like, oh, I got to write more.
Well, they could definitely be a Netflix series, and that the carnival presence in general is always so foreboding, and the way you describe some of the scenes in there are very poetic in nature, and you can envision it very, very vividly in your mind, and I think it would just be something very, very cool in a
Thank
movie
you.
format.
I'm gonna look at kind of going back over with COVID and all. I really hadn't felt like doing a whole lot of writing, except maybe like a little, like some fan fiction, and it's nowhere near like what my original stuff is. And I'm like, I need to get back on the horse. I feel like I just had this COVID days or something with writing. So this summer, I'm going to look at more of the Ivy Carnival. I've got more ideas because I had envisioned it being like a multiple anthology with maybe like 5-6 stories a volume, and just delving into the fact that it's like all over the world, because you see ivy on buildings all the time and you're like, oh yeah, that's nothing. And then when you think about it as like a living thing with like a brain, then it's a little more terrifying, because you're like, oh well, what if that suddenly decided it would go bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I have it all over my porch. It started as one little itty bitty plant when I started writing the series. And I was like, oh, it's such a cool plant. It never lives in my yard. Now it's like huge, and it is literally taking over my house. And I'm like, didn't see that coming. So the stalker has become the stalky now. Hey, may have to rethink this series. But it all came from the idea of what if plants wanted revenge? Because who would see it coming? Who would
Then
see
again,
that
anything
coming?
post-apocalyptic or existential dread is now real life in real life. So
Yes,
hard to write about it when you already have it all going on.
That's been my hang up. I'm like, oh, we're already living through this. I don't know if I can write about it. I'll wait until it's kind of over, and it's not over. And I'm like, well, I'm just gonna go suck it up, buttercup, and write about it. So
Right.
there is more planned. I'm just looking at different, I spent a lot of time looking at like abandoned carnivals and abandoned theme parks. And I'm like, I could do so much more with that. So I'm looking at some maybe from a theme park kind of thing, and maybe some time traveling ones too, where we see it in different points in history. Getting into kind of that alternative history fiction some too, because I feel like it could really maybe blend a little bit there. So that's kind of the plan. I just got to sit down and do it.
I used to love looking at pictures of the old dilapidated theme parks that are just abandoned. One of my favorites that's actually right before they've recently fixed it up and now it's open, is the Wizard of Oz theme park. They had it abandoned for forever. And it was really creepy to see that yellow brick road all like just nasty and weird. And I was like, wow, that's actually really creepy. And then what's that one? They have a big animal in a tank. What is it? Is it the whale? Is it the shark? What was the one? They just left it there when the theme park closed.
You're talking about the great
you know what I'm
white?
talking about? Yeah, and it's just there.
Yeah.
And people still go in it just to see it. And I'm like, no.
Well, a great white has never survived in captivity.
True. But still, though, it was just creepy that they left it there after, it failed financially and they just left it there to die. Sorry. Wah, wah. That kind of brought the mood down. I'm just saying. But
it makes for good stories, though.
It is true. It is true.
That's the kind of stuff that goes through my brain all the time. What if? What
my
if?
brain is a giant what if question mark all the time.
Yay, me too. All the time.
It's just a constant wheel that just turns,
Well, this is a question we ask really everyone that comes on the show, but mainly authors. Who are some of your influences in writing? Who are some of the people that you read and who you kind of look up to in the literary world?
So I have gone through this kick where I'm reading a lot of vintage Stephen King, like Pet Sematary. I didn't realize how obsessed I am with horror movies until I discovered Ice Nine Kills, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm super obsessed. I need help. Is there like a horror anonymous or something. Not that I would ever go. I don't mind. I started looking at his stuff again. One of my kids was reading Cujo.
Awesome.
And I'm like, and the best thing about it was he had picked the book on his own. Usually I can only get him to read graphic novels. And he's like, no, I want to read like a real print book. And I'm like, so you pick Cujo.
Good
Okay.
choice. Good choice.
Good.
Cool.
Yeah. That's different. My all-time favorite Stephen King, though, is Salem's Lot. Like, I can read it every summer and still want to read it again the next summer.
I can't get into that book. I don't know why, but the whole scene with the baby, I was like, I'm done. I'm out. Maybe I need to retry it. I'll probably retry it again this summer, but because everybody says it's their favorite whenever they talk about it. And I was like, dang it. Okay, I'll try it again.
That's like, that's my favorite. My second favorite is The Shining. I read it when I was a teenager.
Oh, such a beautiful book.
That book scared the pee out of me, literally.
Yeah.
I had to get up and go to the bathroom after I made it past certain scenes, and I'm like, oh man, I got to put this down. No, I can't. It's going to the bathroom with me. I can't put this book down anymore ever till I'm finished. So I was rereading. I always go back and reread at least one of his over a break. I like to read a lot of like classic English fiction, like Thomas Hardy with Tess of the D'Urbervilles. That's one of my favorites. I'll reread it. But then I also like the Harry Potter series, and I reread it like every year without fail. All 6.5 books. Because the 7th book, I'm like the extended camping trip and the death button. I can't, I read parts of that one. I can't do it all the way through. And I'm like, I'm not a true Harry Potter fan. I'm sorry. I just can't. But I'll read about anything. I try to read what my kids in class are reading. So I'll read like a lot of manga. I'll go through this thing where I'm like, I want to read like all of the Bleach series, or I'll go back and reread like
that is
Death
one
Note
of my favorites. Both of those, actually.
Yes.
Both of those are fantastic.
So good. I'll watch it every year.
And Netflix version is trash. Please read the manga, people. Please read the manga.
Yes. And the Japanese live action films were really good. They made like some really good decisions as far as trying to fit like that whole story into 3 movies. So I'll watch them. They're really hard to find. My kids don't even believe me that they were live action things. And I'm like, oh no, they're live action. I've got them, but I can't show them to you at work. So Death Note party at my house. So I'll read those. I'll turn around and read Harlequin romance, like because it's like, I don't want to say it's easy fiction. It's just like, I don't want to say mindless either, but kind of where like it's not like a long storyline, and I'm like, I can sit and read this like when I'm not super busy and feel like I've read like a whole book in like maybe an hour or 2, and I feel accomplished. So I kind of read. I read a little bit of anything. One of my favorite series though is a co-authored series by Preston and Child. And it's with a detective, or he's not really a detective, he's a special agent. Special Agent Pendergast. And he does really weird FBI cases where they maybe have like a kind of a supernatural flair. And he goes in and solves them. And he's like a really weird detective. And it's just interesting to read like a major series that's co-authored and try to figure out, well, who writes what character when. So finally I got to meet one of them, and I asked, and they told me, and I'm like, cool, I see it now. Yes, I do. I can see who wrote what. So it's really interesting. But those are just kind of like detective novels with some horror mixed in. The first book is terrifying. Like, this creature gets unleashed in the New York Museum, and nobody believes it's real except him. And he's just like, listen, you've got to listen to me, but they're so good. Nobody ever listens to him ever. So I like them. And my other, I guess he's kind of a fantasy and horror, is Jim Butcher.
The Jim Butcher series, it's really good. I actually really enjoyed that myself.
with Harry Dresden. He
Mhm.
just his method for writing was so interesting. He's like, I set out to prove my writing teacher wrong. He said, I'm going to make the best character ever. I'm going to follow all of her scripts and things she tells me to write, and but I'm going to show her it failed. And instead, it's been an incredibly successful series. And he's like, he's the anti-hero. Like, he doesn't want to be a good person and
How many
save the
books are they
world.
on now? It's at least 12 or more, no? I've lost
Yeah.
count.
There's some side stories and all too. I've lost count. I started with like the first 4 and I'm like, I need to read beyond the first 4. I'll just read them over and over again. And the short stories. I really found him by reading some short stories by some other authors like Kelly Armstrong and Charlene Harris. Like, he was in an anthology with them, and I'm like, oh, I'll try this Harry Dresden guy and see if it's funny. And like, it was, and I'm like, oh, well, I need to read the rest of the series then. Sure. So I started with those and read them, but there's so many books now. I don't even know what we're up to anymore. No clue. I have them. I'm like, they're on my TBR pile, which gets bigger and bigger, and it needs to stop getting bigger.
Oh
I
yeah,
have like 8 sitting next to my bed right now.
I was
So
gonna say
many.
you're preaching
So
to the choir
many.
to Elena because
Dude,
she's a book nerd and she'll tell you that.
it's a oh, and you want to know the best nerd discovery I have made last week? Okay, if you have a library card, you can download 2 apps, Hoopla, and you can also download the Libby app. You can
I
check
have the
out
Libby
books
app.
from any library, anywhere, any Audible for 21 days or more because you have a library card. For free.
Yes, Libby is the best. I have like
Hashtag sponsor us.
books
Please.
downloaded now. They have
Yeah,
such
I
good
was
stuff.
so shocked because I read so much, and now I've gotten to the point where I have no room. There's none, and I keep buying more, and it's fine because I could have a drug problem, but I don't, so I got that going for me. But yeah, I found that out this week, and I said, well, I know what I'm doing, and I did. I got a library
Yeah,
card.
books are a good
Oh, yeah.
drug. Yeah, books.
They are
They
good.
really are.
Yeah, it warmed my heart a little bit to hear you talk about your rereading early Stephen King, because that's exactly where I started early Stephen King. The first Stephen King book I read was Carrie. And
Oh, that's a good one.
yeah, interestingly enough, he threw that in the garbage can. If you've read anything about Stephen
Yeah, he did. He hated that book for a really long time because that was his first ever one.
Yeah.
He hated it. And what was funny is it took me so long to read that one because I was bullied in school because I was bullied in school. Let's just say that. So when I got to the end, I was like, you know what? Good for her. Good for her. Light them on fire. I don't care. Light them all
Real.
on fire.
Go for it, girl.
Very valid. I was like, good for her,
Well, but I kind of did the same thing. I went through all those, when they came out, really, because I'm that old. But Carrie and Cujo and Pet Sematary, all that early stuff, and I still read Stephen King. And his latest book, I forget the title of it. Billy Summers. It's about an assassin.
I haven't tried that one yet. I bet it's on.
Not a lot of people like it, to be honest.
I got halfway through it, and this is the first Stephen King book I haven't gotten all the way through. And I'm not going to say I'm never going to finish it, but I got halfway through it, and I was like, man, this is enough is enough. So I just stopped. But other than that, some of his more recent stuff I really like The Outsider. I enjoyed that. This was a little older, but Doom McKee was a really good one. But anyway, I could talk about Stephen King for 2 hours, so I'm not going to do that.
April, did you ever read
He
Joyland?
could almost be a podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Joyland.
I was about to say, I was like, you have to have read this book. If you didn't, you need to read it. I think you.
And he mentions the town right next to me in it. I believe he mentions Waycross, Georgia.
Yeah.
In Joyland, and I'm like, hey, that's
Yep.
literally 10 miles up the road from me.
You know
It's
what
in
one
a
I catch
book.
myself wanting to reread all the time is Misery, but that book freaked me out so bad I never read it again. And Mama Kathy Bates, literally when because I wanted to read the book before I watched it, and I read it I think in middle school or high school, I don't remember. And I was like, dang, Kathy Bates just put her whole badussy in this performance. Like, this was just everything I envisioned in the book when I read it was what Kathy Bates embodied. Just, wow.
Yeah, she's
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
That book, the ending, though, I was like, did it end? Did it not end? Now I need to look under my bed because Kathy Bates is going to be under there, you know? Crazy.
Oh, my
Which would
goodness.
be cool, but scary at the same time.
I don't know.
That wouldn't be
I don't
cool.
know.
That wouldn't be cool. Nah, I'd rather have those ghosts than Kathy Bates under my bed.
I don't know.
Her and her cockadoodie ideas.
I like my feet. Want to keep my feet? No.
Please keep my feet.
Keep my feet. That's right. That's right. All right, April. Well, we've kind of covered what you got going on, what you have out there. I want to make sure before we end the podcast, we give you time to promote anything you want to promote. And to our listeners, I'm going to leave links on anything that April has out there where you can find find her books or whatever else she would like for you to follow. But I'm going to be quiet, and April, you tell us where we can find all your stuff, where we can contact you, that kind of thing, so the listeners know where to find April S. Lee.
So I'm on Amazon under April S. Lee, and I have lots of different kinds of books up there. Everything from horror to crime to drag queens to tattoos. Everything.
Wait.
Yeah, you got to pause now. You got to pause.
Wait a minute.
Got to pause.
No one told me about the drag queen. What is the name of this one? I'm going to be purchasing this.
So it's my first book, and it's called My Year as a Real Woman, and it's in 3 parts. I have part 2 almost ready to go. It's got to be edited a little bit. I think I've got to add 1 or 2 more scenes. But what happens is this girl has a twin brother, and it's in the 90s. She gets a phone call from somebody saying, hey, he's been in a wreck and you need to come here immediately. And she gets up to Atlanta, and she realizes that her brother has been keeping some really, really big secrets. Biggest of all is he's a drag queen and has been a drag queen. And she's like, oh, that makes so much sense. But that's not even the best secret. The best secret is now she has to impersonate him because somebody was legit trying to kill him to keep him from winning prize money. So
sounds good.
It's a little bit of everything. It was my very first story, though, for NaNoWriMo, and I didn't finish it in the span of November. I realized this is like a huge project, and I'm going to have to really keep writing. It's going to be like 100,000 words, not 50. So that was my first book up there, and it's very near and dear to my heart. It's my favorite.
Well, I knew as soon as you said drag queen, Elena was going to pause it.
Is this one it?
That's it.
Okay.
That's the one.
Sorry, I was like, I will not be going to bed without this book.
It's still one of my most read on Amazon out of all the stuff I published. It's still the favorite. People even overseas have bought and read that one and told me about it. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I didn't know it went that far. Who doesn't love drag queens?
Everyone loves drag queens, and if you don't, you're a communist. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we paused it for the drag queens. Now, April, you can continue sharing what you got out there.
So I try to keep my identities to just a couple different names. So I write under April S. Lee on Amazon, and they're in print, they're in Kindle, they're even at the local Pines Library. If you live in Georgia, you can even check my books out and have them sent to your Pines Library. Because my local branch said, you're a local author, let's put them in, and people can read them for free. And I said, sweet, let's do it. So that's where some of my books are. My dancer name is Naturally Morbid, and I'm on YouTube under Naturally Morbid, I believe. I'm on Insta under Naturally Morbid Dances. And then if you look up the Stygian Collective, who are actually based out of the Midwest, I'm on their site as Naturally Morbid. I'm in shows a couple times a year for them. The Descent in October and the Ascent in the spring. And I have some cool projects coming up with them. We're going to do like a Anne Rice themed show in the summer that we'll be announcing. I think we've even announced it pretty much all over social media. It's called Akasha's Altar. And we're going to be paying tribute to that movie that's from, which I can't say because I'm in the church house right now. So, but it's one of the vampire movies, and it's going to be a really good show. So we have that coming out. I'm going to be appearing on an online show called The Strangers, put on by a dancer I know named Nazira, and it's a tribute to Universal's monsters. I'm going to be the Bride of Frankenstein.
Nice.
Oh, awesome.
Very soon, and it'll be out on April 22nd for World Goth Day. And my piece had to be filmed almost in the middle of the night in bugs, and I got stung, and it was not fun, but it was cool looking like the Bride of Frankenstein. Very cool.
That is
so
cool.
We have that coming up, and then I'm going to be teaching at a local retreat for Golden Isles Belly Dance coming up in June. I think it's like mid-June. I'll be teaching the fusion style, and it's going to be super fun. Everybody's really excited, and I'll have some performances and things from that coming up too. But I'm always busy. Like my mind is always, it doesn't shut off at night. So I'm always like, oh, could I do this? Could I do that? Could I promote this? Could I promote that? Or, so it's all the time.
Well, Elena and I, we love creative people. We're creative people. We love surrounding ourselves with creative people. We love musicians. We love artists. We love dancers. We love anyone who can create. So movie directors, just everybody. So we are everybody that has a creative bone in their body. We want them on the show. It's called Horror 421, the podcast, and yeah, we do angle towards horror, but we'll talk to any creative person that we can get on here that has an interesting story. So we are so glad you joined us. And what I will say about the dancing, I've seen a few videos on Instagram and Facebook, and her movements, and I don't know how many you've seen, Elena. But
I watched a lot. I've watched majority of them.
Oh my God. April's movements are so fluid. It is so good. I mean, you're so talented.
Thank you.
Well, because your presence is like, it's like your superpower when you put on your super suit, when you have on your costume and everything, and you embody that person that you envision, it's just one of those things when you dance, you can see that very much on your facial expressions and your presence and your movements and everything.
Well, the fluidity just blows me away.
Thank you.
So listeners, if you haven't seen April dance, look her up on Instagram, on Facebook, see if you can find some of those, because she's really amazing at that too, on top of the art in the book. So,
and I have a video premiering, I believe it's premiering tomorrow on the Stygian Collective's channel. It's my Candyman piece. It's to Ice Nine Kill's song, Farewell to Flesh, which is from the original Candyman story by Clive Barker, who's another influence. And I am so excited because I danced for about 5 minutes in one video, and it took probably an hour and a half to film the whole flipping thing.
Nice.
So it was like really an hour and a half for 5 minutes of really cool film. But it was really, Candyman is just so underrated.
Yeah.
As like a horror movie. So I was like, yes, that's like springtime. It has bees. It'll be fine.
I love the music videos I've been in, but they take so blasted long to shoot. Oh my God. I'm like, we've been here for 9 hours, man. This is the same thing. I can't do it anymore.
We just need one more angle.
Right. And it's just like, we need it from here. We need it from here. We need it from here. We need it here. I'm like,
no more. I'm done. I'm out of here, man.
Okay, Reagan.
Sorry.
All right. Well, Elena, this is your opportunity to share with our following where they can find you specifically.
Hello, everyone. I am the weirdo they know as Jukebox Baby 78 on Instagram as well as on TikTok. I do a lot of body paints on there, a lot of regular makeup. I share my real life on Instagram, so the illusion's kind of shattered when you go there. And then I also have my Facebook, and I am under Elena Marie on there. If you would like to see my random rantings about life, and if you'd like to contact me about any makeup you would like to be done, you can DM me on Instagram. You can also DM me on Facebook. I do work at Nightmares Gate Haunted House, so if you're ever in the Douglasville area of Georgia, we do have a really awesome Halloween haunt this year. We have a whole new theme going. I'm working every weekend on it right now. We're even doing a halfway to Halloween right now on Friday the 13th of May through Friday the 14th, which I know this episode won't air until July, but I'm putting it out there. And then I get a whole new character this year, so stay tuned, folks. Also, we are part of valleyboypublications.com, so you can buy my face on Charles's books over there, click on the link down here, like and subscribe. And then, we have our YouTube, so Horror 421, the podcast. Please join us, love us, link us, vibe with us, and listen to us. And for all of our artist friends, like Charles said, we love all of you. And a message for everyone to know that as an artist, your artist friends are not your competition. They're your inspiration. Learn from them, live by them, and support all of them.
I can't follow that.
You're welcome.
Well, I am Charles Campbell. I'm your friendly small town horror author. You can find me at valleyboypublications.com. You can also find me on Instagram under Charles Campbell Author. You can find me on Facebook under Charles Campbell Author. We also have a Facebook page for Horror 421, the podcast, so you can find us there. If you want to be a guest on the show, if you have something you want to share, reach out to Elena or me. You can reach out through Instagram, through Facebook, email, however you can find us. Just shoot us a message, like she said, and we can talk and see if we can get you booked on the show. Other than that, I think that's about all I have right now. I will be releasing a book sometime this year. It's going slow, but it'll come out before 2022 is over. That's all I can tell you. But anyway. Thank you, guys.
Follow us on Facebook.
Yeah, follow us on Facebook and like and subscribe. And wherever you get your podcast, we're on Spotify and all the platforms for the most part. So we're on Apple and all that stuff. So anyway, follow, like, subscribe. And until next time, we'll see you later. Have a good one.
Oh, hello.
Bye-bye.
We hope you had a horrific time, lovelies. Thank you for tuning in to Horror 421, the podcast. Be sure to like us on YouTube and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.